Shall we begin? Shall we begin? Shall we begin? Go the Seahawks. Listen, before I even commence, where I come from, I'm a New Zealand Maori.
Yeah.
Thank you. Kia ora, kia ora. Something that's very important for us to do whenever we traditionally enter another people's land is to pay acknowledgement to those people. I want you to imagine this whole place, this whole city, not here. Because once upon a time it wasn't. And the people that were here were the Ute. I want to invite onto the stage, it's a great honor for me to invite onto the stage Perline, her daughter Yampa, and her son Shatovi. Perline, thank you very much for having me here. Can you, can you just explain the names of your children?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Perline Ridley. I am a member of the Ute Indian tribe. This is my son here. His name is Satowi. It means like a tornado, a white tornado. That tornadoes do. They destroy everything. Well, that's what he's like. And this is my daughter Yampa. It's short for Yampa Rika. In our language, the Ute language, it means carrot eater, and that's one of our bands of our tribe within the Ute Indian Nation. Like I said, we're from Roosevelt. Enrolled with the tribe down Fort Duchesne, and we've gone into the University of Utah, the Ute football. And got to go there and look at the football team and got a shirt for them. I forgot to bring one because I bought one for Manu, so we'll have to get that to him. That says "You Proud." And the emblem on the back is the emblem of the tribe, and the shirts that they buy for the University of Utah goes to scholarship for the Ute students. So hopefully, Yampa gets to go there. Thank you, Manu.
Thank you, Perline. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey. Oh, yeah, the Ute people were here. It's amazing. You know, I played that character, Crixus. But, you know, I'm a Maori, so I sort of had to bring some warrior things that come from my ancestry. But when I think back, you know, I often used to sit and think on set who Crixus was, you know, and who Spartacus was. You know, in the last few days I've had so many, I can't even tell you how many, but so many returned servicemen from Afghanistan and Iraq. I've had these warriors walk up to me and embrace me and say that, you know, watching Spartacus was such a motivation for them in that very, very difficult and trying situation. And I look at them and I see Crixus or Spartacus in these young men. And, you know, I have to say to them, you know, I was only acting. You know, what you have done, where you've trodden, that is the true steps of warriors. And but, you know, at the same time, I know that somehow in the energy that we've shared between each other, we're somehow fused in some same example of getting things right, you know, and being united in some way. You know, I just want to say this is my second year here at Salt Lake City. You know, Dan Farr, the organizer of this show, walked up to me in Philadelphia, Wizard World, about a year and a half ago, and he said to me, Manu, you know, I really want to make Salt Lake City a people's convention. You know, I wanted the people of Utah to come out in force, and I really want, you know, I really think we can get it going if we get the right people there. So he invited me. And, you know, I was actually advised not to come along because the conventions can be, you know, first-time conventions can be quite small. So I was given this advice not to come, but I listened to Dan's voice and I listened to his spirit, and I just knew he was going to pull something off amazing. So, you know, last year you guys got 70,000 people here, which was the biggest debut convention in the country. So you guys are strong, you know. There's something about the Ood Nation that's come through you guys. You're a strong tribe, I tell you. And you know, this year we're looking at over 100,000 people, so congratulations, Salt Lake City. Well done. You know, I love to see the kids. I love to see people who look at these characters and find some kind of hope or inspiration. It's so important. The arts are so important for that, for us to turn the television set on and get away from our, you know, whatever's going on in our lives and try to believe in these metaphors of life that, you know, Stan Lee created. You know, the nerd kid that could become Spider-Man. You know, the scientist who was trying to get things right, he became the Hulk. You know, these metaphors are just sort of driving its way through the geek community 30 years ago, and now the geek community is sort of taking over.
Yeah!
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, Hollywood didn't realize what you guys realized 30 or 40 years ago in a garage when you went swapping comic books, doing Comic-Con. You know, and people say to me, thanks for coming to these conventions, but I'm not coming to these conventions. You know, I'm not coming. You guys created this. Well, you know, I'm coming, but I'm not coming like, you know, it's my convention. It's your convention, and I'm a guest. You know, so thank you for inviting me to your party. Because you own it. It's yours. And if you can't come up to one of our tables and get the answer that you want, that'll be the day I stop coming, okay? So, yeah. If you ever want to come and ask me anything at any of these conventions, anything, just come and ask, okay? Here for you. Should we go straight to some questions so we can get these through? Yes, mate.
Hi, I just want to say, me and my dad are big fans of yours. We love Arrow and The Hobbit, and I just wanted to know, what was it like, you know, being in these two iconic universes, you know, Arrow and The Hobbit, when you found out you were going to be in both of them? How was that?
Yeah, look, I mean, I was in the second last episode of Spartacus, and I'll go back a little bit further. I don't know whether anybody knows this story, but somebody else was cast as Azog before I was. When they went into doing the filming originally, there was a 7-foot guy called Shane Jones, who I went to high school with. Right? Now, how many people here have watched Spartacus? Okay, do you remember Sedulus, the German guy that got his face cut off? That was Shane Jones, right? Now, he got cast in Spartacus, and because I went to high school with him, as soon as he arrived, I was like, Bones, yo, Bones. We called him Bones. I said, listen, mate, I'm so happy you're on Spartacus, and I invited him to my house for dinner. We sat down, we're having dinner, he says, Manu, I just got offered Azog from Peter Jackson, and I had auditioned for it. So my heart kind of dropped, but then I was like, oh, fantastic, brother. I'm so happy. Isn't that weird? I auditioned for that as well. And he went down there and he spent 1.5 years shooting The Hobbit. If you go onto a YouTube clip called The Making of Azog, you'll see him in a suit. So basically, Azog originally was a suit-driven character. Now, when Peter Jackson got to the editing booth at the end of all of the shooting, in Lord of the Rings, when you saw an orc, it had a mask, and its eyes were sort of sunken back a little bit. It's really hard to get the edges on it, and the teeth were kind of like... And now it's sad. by no fault of Shane Jones, my dear friend from high school, the actual costuming and prosthetic procedure wasn't effective enough to bring through the performance that, you know, Peter Jackson needed out of that big penultimate Arzog figure. So 3 months outside the premiere, you know, it was going to premiere in 3 months' time, Peter Jackson had to make this really big call. And he said, we're going to go and we're going to make Arzog CGI the same way that we made Gollum. I'm 2 weeks out from finishing Spartacus and I get a phone call to fly down there, and I have to be there, and this is the Wednesday, I have to be there on the Friday. And I was like, well, I wonder what happened to Shane. Sorry, mate. But down I go, right? And I throw on this green suit, and they came out and they gave me the shoes that Andy Serkis had wore to make Gollum, and they said these were Andy's shoes, and I stepped into them. And it was funny because I'd met Andy the year before at San Diego Comic-Con, and we talked about motion capture. So here I was stepping into those shoes, and basically from there it was just a real roller coaster ride, mate. I mean, literally they had so little time to get it done. I just got in there, did all, you know, they wanted a good fighter, so I could do all the Arzog fight scenes with a big warhammer. You know, I shot the Wag on this pommel horse. It was all very abstract filmmaking, and I didn't really know what any of it was going to look like. But in the end of the day, it was like one of the most incredible experiences of using film technology that I've been involved in. When Peter Jackson's sitting there going, you know, hey Manu, I'm going, oh yeah, Peter. Yeah. You know, it's a pretty significant step in your career. Now, going back to the military stuff, I was in Kuwait doing a USO tour, and I spent time with the forces that were being taken out of Camp Arifjan up to Afghanistan. So I saw all these young kids that were going off to war, and I got to meet a couple of the Special Forces guys, and one of them showed me this headlock. A couple of days after I met them, I flew back to Los Angeles on my way to fly back to the Hobbit premiere. It's a bit convoluted, but on the last day I got asked, my manager rang me and said, what time's your flight to New Zealand? And I said, it's 3 o'clock. She said, can you be at the audition, this audition for Arrow? I said, well, it's 10 o'clock. She goes, can you go there right now? I got my suitcases. I said, yeah, okay, I'll go there and enter the airport. And so I got there and I had jet lag. And the military boys were all drinking 5-hour energy drink over in Kuwait. You know, if you're stuck in a battle, you can't go to sleep. These guys have got to, you know, they have this on hand. So here I was going into battle for an audition. And I remember just sort of feeling this bit of jet lag as I got to, and I didn't feel like I had energy. And I went, oh, those boys gave me that jet. I owe this role to these Special Forces guys. I went, oh, they gave me that 5-hour energy drink. So I got it out and I chugged this thing down. And I walked into this casting agency, and it started hitting me immediately. And this, you know, there's this, all this row of guys, you know, they all looked, you know, physical and whatever, and they were all doing this line. Remember when I dropped through the fuselage in the first episode, and I got the knife behind Oliver Queen's neck, and I went, tell me something I believe, kid, or I'm gonna cut out your throat box. And I'm reading that line, and I can hear all these guys doing it in varying degrees. Like some guy was in there going, I'm gonna cut out your throat! You know, and I went, he's not gonna get the role. There was all these variances, I could hear it. I was trying to meter it. I was trying to work out what the right metering of this performance would be to get the role. And I could hear all these guys through the door going one after the other after the other. In the meantime, this 5-hour energy drink started surging through me like Mirakuru. And I was like, let me in there. And so finally the door opened and they said, Manu Bennett? I was like, yeah. Here we go. So I went in there and there's a guy with a camera like this. Hey mate, turn the camera around here. This one here, thanks. All right, thank you. So they have this camera like this and there's this guy behind it, like the guy with the hat there, eating the food. Can you put that down for a second, mate? And come up here. So I said, can I get the reader who was behind the camera, can I get him to come up onto the stage? Can you come on the stage? I said, this is my audition for Arrow. Not a word of a lie. Oh, mate, oh. So the reader came in front of the camera because he was originally standing behind the camera. And when I'd read there was this chokehold in this scene, and the Special Forces guys had shown me this chokehold. I wanted to use it. So, the director at the casting for Arrow says, "Are you ready, Mr. Bennett?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm ready." This 5-hour energy drink has like got me. It was Mirakuru, I'm telling you. This whole thing's just a big metaphor. So I grabbed this guy around the neck. And as I started the scene, and I got to the point where I had to go, "You got 10 seconds to tell me something I believe, kid. Oh, I'm gonna cut out your throat box." At that point, do you mind just pretending to do this? The guy collapsed onto the ground, out cold. I said, "Is this part of the audition?" And the director said, "No, I think you just choked him out." And I went, are you okay, kid? Really? Are you okay? And the kid went, "Oh, yeah, I just passed out." I just passed out. And so I helped him up. And the director said, "Go to the bathroom and wash your face." Thanks, mate. I'll talk to you later. So, I'm standing there going, "I'm sorry, man. I just got back from Kuwait, and I was with these Special Forces guys, and they showed me that choke move, you know, chokehold. I'm sorry." And I wasn't sure that was going to be the last audition I was ever going to do in Hollywood. But the director said, "Don't apologize. It was perfect." And he said, "Come around here and have a look." And I went around the back of the camera and we watched the whole thing back, and you could see the kid's eyes go. Now, I left the casting studio and my heart was pumping, and I rang up my agent and I said, "I choked the guy out." And she went, "What?" I said, "Yeah, but they loved it. I'm telling you, they loved it." And she was like, "Yeah, no, seriously, they loved it. I will get another job." Like, or whatever, I don't know, they said they loved it and they're going to send us to the studio. So I went and jumped on a plane and I went over to New Zealand and I went and saw the first Hobbit movie. And at the after party, you know, I partied with Peter Jackson, all those guys, Kate Blanchett, met them all for the first time. And I went back to the hotel and, you know, I'd had a pretty big night, and I got a phone call at like 7 o'clock in the morning. And I sort of woke up and it was my manager, and she said, Manu, they want you to get on a plane tonight and fly to Canada." Now, when I did the audition, it was a character called Holloway. It was written on the lines, right? It was Holloway. And so she said, "Yeah, they want you to play that role." So I jumped on a plane and flew to Canada that night. LA, New Zealand, Hobbit premiere, New Zealand, Canada. I got to Canada airport, I was like so out of it. And I was standing to get my immigration papers, and my manager sent me a message to say E! News had just released that I got the role. So I looked at it on my tablet, and it said, "Manu Bennett cast as Deathstroke." And I said, "It's wrong. I read for Holloway, not Deathstroke." And literally the guy behind the counter at the immigration in Vancouver said to me, "Are you playing Deathstroke?" And I went, and he went, these were his words, he said, "Man, Deathstroke's like the badass of the DC comic world." You know, and then the journey began. The journey began, brother. So, you know, those are two stories. Yeah. Anyway.
I really love you as Slade and Arrow. Me and my little brothers root for you more than we actually root for Arrow.
No, he's not here until tomorrow. Give it to me.
In Arrow, you have some pretty dark scenes, like when you killed his mom and all that.
Yeah, when I read that on the page, I went, okay, here we go.
Did you have to do any preparation for something that dark, or was it kind of easy?
You know what, darling, I used to play piano, and I wanted to be a classical piano player, but I put my focus on acting. But sometimes I think about it like when you get to like a Rachmaninoff piece and you got to start hammering those keys, you know, and really get intense, you know. I just think about it kind of like that, you know. It's sort of like it's the time where, as an actor, you've got to dig deep and find a whole bunch of stuff, you know. And a lot of people don't know, but, you know, my life hasn't been so easy when I was young. You know, my mother and brother both died in car accidents. My brother died in my hands, you know what I mean? And, you know, it was a very, very shocking thing for me when I was a 15-year-old kid. And, you know, but these are the things that, you know, the arts are what gave me a positive expression. You know, I didn't go down the drug and alcohol road. I found my strength in playing rugby and acting and dancing. You know, I had a few things that I was going into. So, you know, the whole thing, it was like a 10, 15-year period for me as an actor to sort of cook and get past certain plot points or goal points. But then once I got to a point where I was starting to work with people like Rob Tapper, the producer of Spartacus, you know, Peter Jackson, you know, the guys from Warner Brothers on this show, you know, I'd managed to take all of that and be able to channel it positively, like an instrument, into the work. So my job, darling, is to take big scenes like that and all that stuff from that 15-year-old kid. I can still link up to it. I know what it felt like. And that's why, you know, when I act, and I hope that you guys felt it through Crixus, because Crixus was like the most beautiful opportunity for me to go through everything that I've been through in my feelings and put it onto a piece, you know. And Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, you know, some of that stuff has come from dark areas as well, but there's also been some good friendship between him and Oliver. You know, these are the things that, you know, I act for real, darling. I'm not here for the money. I'm not here for the for the fame or anything like that. I'm here because I believe it will resonate. You know, these roles if I get them right. And, you know, coming here and, you know, sharing this moment with you guys. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi.
Hey, sweetheart.
My name's Emily. I just wanted to say that I think you're such a badass. You're awesome. Anyway, my question is, your character Slade Wilson in Arrow, like you really progressed from being like Oliver's friend in the beginning to being like this insane bad guy. Like, how was that progression for you? Like, did you know that you were gonna end up being that big villain in the beginning? And
you know, television scripts come to you like a couple of days before you have to do them. Television moves really fast. The writers are always adjusting the scripts. And the death of his mother, I got like, I think 48 hours tops before I had to play the scene where I killed Moira. When they rang up at one stage and they said, hey, you're in love with Shadow. And I was like, really? Okay, I've been treating her like a young girl who needs to be protected. And they said, no, we're going to drive it into a love triangle. And so you've been in love with her. And I was like, okay, let's work that one out. Let's start working that into this episode. You know, like, I think there was one scene, I think the first scene where they really started playing on that sort of thing was when Slade looked through the bushes and saw Oliver and Shadow making out on the side of the lake. And I had to sort of do this sort of look of despair. I said to them, keep it rolling after they've said cut, okay, just keep it rolling. And so when they did, it was like I was going. I did something for the crew that was kind of funny after that. But you know, we had fun on there. But yeah, you know, I mean, yeah, it comes fast. you know, maybe that's the wrong term. It really just moves along television scripts, and you've got to be ready and on your feet to just change direction. Same with Spartacus. Spartacus had the most incredible episodes that had these endings that were just unbelievable. You know, and every time I read a script, I was like, whoa, that's a stretch, but let's go there, you know? So yeah, you just got to keep on your toes with television scripts. They're fast. Thanks, darling. Thorin? Is that Thorin Oakenshield?
No, it's a Bane costume. I'm just not wearing a mask.
I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay, so my question was, what would be different in Arrow if you played Arrow and Steven played Deathstroke? What would be different?
You know what? It's a really, really interesting question, darling. Because sometimes these iconic role models, and especially the type of, maybe the type of ethnicity that even gets cast in certain role models, which is kind of like a bit endemic in casting. You know, there's a certain look that'll get the lead role. Like, for instance, I know that I'm not going to get the role of Arrow. You know, Oliver Queen, the millionaire boy of a major American city, but I will get it as Deathstroke. Oh, there's ethnic symbolism that carries through into filmmaking, and you know, it's neither here nor there for me to judge. I mean, sometimes I just think to myself, like, aren't I lucky to be a Maori actor working in America, and maybe that's going to help some other young Maori actors come through as well. But the thing is that, you know, if you flipped it around, I don't think it'd make any sense. You know, Stephen Amell, like, honestly, has done such a great job, you know, as a young actor who's been thrust into the limelight. I'll tell you a story. Stephen Amell auditioned for Spartacus. When Spartacus was being replaced, he was one of the 3 actors who was flown to New Zealand to replace Andy Whitfield. And it just wasn't his role. He wasn't ready at that casting. And Liam McIntyre got it. But he was born to play Oliver Queen. Like, he was, and you know, when he first started, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he deserves a round of applause, because his place, when you play a lead actor in a series, you don't get any sleep. You don't get a day off. You're working all the time. And he had a lot of, you know, huge load on his shoulders. And I saw him go through the process of the year and a half that I worked with him as being a young guy who was sort of a great look and sort of having to be stoic and be this heroic model to a guy that really became an incredible actor internally. You know, when I actually killed his mother in that episode, right, the acting that he did around that to emotionally go through that particular episode was just, you know, it was phenomenal. You know what, kid? The world is what it is. And it's a really interesting question, but yeah, you know what? He's the perfect Oliver, and I do okay as Deathstroke. Thanks for asking. Hey, Donnie.
Hi, my name is Tabitha. I just want to say thank you. You're the reason why I actually started watching Arrow. I am a complete Marvel fan, so getting into DC was a little scary. Well, I'm going to keep this short and sweet so other people have time to ask questions. I just want to request a hug.
Yeah, come on. That's okay. Nice to meet you.
Hello, my name is Eve. I was wondering what it was like and what your favorite thing in working in the Marvel Universe, working in the Middle Earth was like.
Well, the thing is that because I was pulled in so late, I never worked with any of the other actors. I I was totally isolated in a studio where all they were trying to find was the motion capture of Arzog. And then later on, about 2 months, like about a month out from the premiere, I was sent into a sound stage to do the voice separately. When they do the voice of Arzog, I go into a studio, and then they've taken all my motion capture and they've animated Arzog, and they've put him on top of the film, so you can see the scenes as they're actually going to look, and then I have to put the voice over the top of it. And if I put the headphones on in the studio, there's kind of like they drop my voice by an octave with the decoder, and they put a leopard growl into it. So you know, it's like there's a line that I do this. But imagine dropping it down an octave and then having this kind of. And it's kind of crazy when you got the headphones on. It's more like you're listening to an instrument, and it's like playing a didgeridoo or something. You sort of you get the tone of it, and then you do it. You know, and then it starts coming together. But inside that world, and what I always talk about is that you've got to make some decisions to actually get more out of the character. And one of the most interesting decisions I made with Peter Jackson was I was sitting on top of this giant green pommel horse, and I was told that it was a giant white wolf called a warg that I was riding, and in the middle of the scene I just said, Peter, this wolf, this thing that I'm on, it's a giant white wolf, yeah. And he said, yeah, it's special. You're white, you're the white orc, and you've got a white warg. And I said, okay, so, like, have I had this warg since it was like a puppy? And he was like, what? And I said, well, you know, do I have a relationship with this animal that I'm on? And Peter Jackson honestly walked out barefoot from behind his control booth, and he put his hands on his hip and he said, what? And I said, well, you know, like if you're on a horse, like, you know, like the Lone Ranger and Silver, there's an obvious relationship between them, you know, like you know, surely if this is a white warg and he's the white orc, then, you know, he must do something with this warg. So I said to him, you know, instead of in this scene that I'm addressing the orcs next to me, can I run I've got a fork on my arm, haven't I? And he said, that's right, yeah, your arm's been cut off, you've got a fork. Where are you going with this? And I said, well, can I run let's say I'm sitting on this pommel horse here, so its head's out here, right? Can I rub the fork through the hair on the back of the warg's neck and whisper, Obak-di-lub-nak, to the warg, and it'll reduce the tension, and then all this stuff that's coming up will sort of come out of a lower area of drama. And he said, yeah, give it a go. So you'll notice that in that scene, I completely diffuse the threat by going into a more intimate scenario. And then also in the first scene that you ever see Arzog, where he's sort of got his back, and then he turns around and he comes down and he sort of chokes that orc out and throws him into the wargs. At the beginning of that, I wanted to diffuse it. As a matter of fact, I watched Jaws the night before that I went in to do Arzog. And I thought, what's scary about Jaws? What makes it scary? Because you can't see the shark. And so I knew that Arzog kind of looked scary, and so in the opening scene I turned away from the camera because I didn't want the audience to see it. I wanted them to be going, what is that? And then when I turned around, I purposely looked down, and I came down and I said, Peter, can I put the warg there? Because I'm going to pat it. And he said, okay. So I went down and I patted the warg like this, and you hadn't even sort of seen Arzog really all the way until he came down to the orc that was saying he had lost the dwarves. And then I said, Peter, can I do like a kind of a kid's thing on his head and sort of be like, la 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 la. And he said, yeah, give it a try. So I sort of did that, and suddenly I just went and threw him into the wargs, you know. And it was just coming up with some dramatic choices and trying to create stuff like that in a completely sterile environment without other actors, without the real warg or anything like that. It was just trying to work your way through a landscape that's very different to live filming. And you know, it was fantastically testing in terms of being able to make decisions like that.
My name is Joey. I just wanted to say, before I ask my question, I had forgot the word. thing that happened to me that was similar to you. My mom, dad, and little sister all died in a car accident, too, when I was 8. But, so I was just wondering, like, with the mask on in Arrow, was that like, because when you wear like a Halloween mask, you're like, I can't breathe. Was it like that at all, ever?
You know, the mask work is always just, it's interesting because, you know, I mean, characters hide behind masks. You know, that's the whole comedy dell'arte that came out of Italy. You know, it was all about putting on the mask of the different emotions and whatever mask, you know, like clowns. People get spooked out by clowns is because a clown looks so happy, but who is the man behind that clown mask? You know, and sometimes you find that people behind masks are wearing a mask because it's hiding something else. You know, I've actually started writing on some of my my Deathstroke cards. I say we all wear masks. You know, and you know, there's this kind of thing that you know is a fundamental part of storytelling and screenplay and stuff like that, which is just trying to, you know, open up the human emotion for people, you know what I mean, and try to get through those masks. So, you know, you coming up here and saying that so openly, you took your mask off, darling. You took it off and you knocked me off the stage. You know, I can jump down here and embrace who you are because you took your mask off, you know? Well done. Yeah. Unbelievable. You know, I try to do that on screen, but the thing is, I've still got to wear the mask of the characters. You know, I'm trying to do all the time the same thing that you just said. You know, and I think some people feel it sometimes when they see Crixus dying or you know, Slade Wilson in a state of pain. You know, that's the feeling, darling. Well, good on you for opening up. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to come over and sit down with this guy. Okay. Next person.
I kind of have 2 questions. First, can you give us any information about the 3rd season of Arrow? And before you actually were Deathstroke in the TV series, did you actually read the comics and to prepare for it?
Yeah, great questions, kid. You've got an incredible voice, mate. Honestly, it's great. You know what? In terms of the preparation, I think I just explained to you how I got the role, and it was a news to me when I landed in Vancouver that I was playing Deathstroke. At the first convention that I went to, I'm up there, Dan. So, at the first convention that I went to, yeah, I went and I got one of the comic book vendors to order me every single episode of the Deathstroke and Slade Wilson comic, and they got delivered to my house about probably a month later, and so I've got every single edition of Deathstroke, Slade Wilson, right from the Teen Titans, you know, George Perez, you know, drawing Deathstroke under the tree, you know, with his son, you know, at the hands of the Teen Titans. So yeah, I've done a bit of research when it comes down to actually doing these roles, but the way they're written on television, it's a very different story arc. Like Shadow replaces his son Joe, you know what I mean? There's a replacement of the characters and the emotional storyline. But you know, when I first met George Perez, he looked at me and I said, I'm playing Deathstroke, and he almost immediately said, you're not old enough. And I mean, he said it quite pointedly. And I felt devastated, to be honest. And it was really early on in playing Slade Wilson. And I actually followed George out of the convention. It was at Ottawa. And I jumped into the cab that he was in, and he was like, leave me alone, kind of thing. No, you don't look like him. I'm not going to tell you look like him. And you know, and a few months later, probably 6 months later, I ran into Marv Wolfman. And Marv is the guy that actually created the character and wrote the character and sort of made the mind of the character. And he told me that I'd got it exactly right. And that made me feel halfway between him and George Perez. But yeah, you know, mate, I mean, you can only do so much in terms of trying to be accurate to the DC comic world and being accurate to the television show Arrow. And some of the Mirakuru stuff that's going on and some of the shadow stuff with her talking over my shoulder, sometimes I've always questioned, has that taken away Slade's mind? Does Slade even think for himself? Is Deathstroke really a character that's based upon the kind of the honor or the sort of the decisions that Deathstroke from the comic book would make? But you've just got to keep on, you know, staying true to the script that comes in front of me. So, you know, you read the comic books, you'll see a different variation, but, you know, what I'm doing on the screen, that's the new TV show Arrow, mate. I just hope you enjoy it. Yeah. Cheers, guys. Hey, listen, guys, I've kind of like, I always do long answers, and it's sort of come to an end. I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming along. I kind of, you know, the question you asked, which I didn't answer, is what's going to happen with Deathstroke in the upcoming season. Where we left it is a mystery to me right now. The writers love Deathstroke, you know, they're happy with it. But right now they're focusing on Ra's al Ghul. And I saw Katrina Law just in Atlanta, and I asked her, who's playing Ra's al Ghul? And she said it's about to be cast. So don't worry about Deathstroke, you Arrow fans. Have a look who's going to be picked as Ra's al Ghul. But if I have my way about it, I think I'm going to be staring him in the face very soon saying, I think this is my town. Thank you. Sorry I didn't get to you.